Hi, and welcome to arguably the most intense lunation situation of 2023. We are talking about our first eclipse of this year, occurring at April 20th at 29 degrees and 43 minutes, 49 minutes actually, of the sign of Aries. This is a solar eclipse, which means that it is a new moon, and we can see that in the chart because the sun and the moon are right on top of each other. So a solar eclipse or a new moon are always about new beginnings, fresh starts, fresh incoming energies, planting seeds, literally because of this spring season in the northern hemisphere, or of course figuratively where you plant your ideas, you start your manifestations, wishes. It's a highly beginning kind of energy. It's a very active energy, action, start. It is a promising energy, normally. But this is an eclipse. So what does that mean? Well, eclipses are intense, sudden, rapid changes. Eclipses are very interesting. They are like divine timing. It's a reshuffling of the reality. It's reshuffling what your life is about, where you're at, and where you need to go to. We speak of an eclipse when actually the north node or the south node are close to the lunation. Here we have an orb of 5 degrees. The north node is at 4 degrees of Taurus, and the new moon or solar eclipse is at 29 degrees of Aries. As I said, that's 5 degrees in between. This is a pretty solid eclipse. This is like almost a full eclipse, we could say, that just intensifies the energies. And it is a very intense eclipse, okay? And I'm of course going to break that down for you, how come that is so. But so eclipses have a bit of that Uranian energy where things suddenly can change, things can come in and come out. We say that as something can be eclipsed in, which is certainly the case with a solar eclipse, with a new moon, right? Because something is beginning, right? Something is starting. So something is very likely being eclipsed in around this time. But then things can also be suddenly eclipsed out. They can finish, they can come to a completion, and they can be removed out of your life as well. I would say when it comes to eclipse moments, one needs to have immense form of trust for whatever is going on, because this is really out of our control, and this is like a higher thing going at play. And if something is removed, trust it that it is absolutely for your highest best, and that it is clearing your path. And if something is eclipsed in, one can really trust that there is something very valuable about this, even if it's a lesson. So eclipses are naturally kind of turbulent because of these immense changes, and because we humans don't tend to like changes that much, right? It occurs in the sign of Aries. Now, Aries is a cardinal sign, which means that it is always the beginning of a certain season. Aries for us in the northern hemisphere stands for, the spring season. So there's always that association with spring, with the start and birth of life, the creation of it all, and just a great influx of energy, right? And that is very Aries. It's active, it's rapid, it's quick, it's energetic, it's dynamic, it is very action oriented. It's a doer kind of energy. Let's go for it. Let's do it. It's an entrepreneurial energy. It's a fighting kind of energy, you know, that drive and motivation to go after something, to birth something in your life. And it has, just like this solar eclipse, has a very beginning kind of energy, very excited, very ready to start and begin and plant those seeds, you know. Aries is a very passionate sign, as you can tell. It is competitive. It is wanting to be the best. It's very driven. It's a champion warrior kind of energy, right? Not afraid to fight for something, not afraid to stand for something, not afraid to rock a few boats on its way. It's just goal oriented, I guess. And therefore it's just it's an honest energy, right? There's no because of the directness of this energy, it just is what it is. It's not fluffiness. There's no bullshit. It just is what it is. And that can be confrontational for some who like to, you know, paint something prettier, or to think too much about other people. Or this is an individual energy. This is you doing you. And, you know, this is where you definitely put yourself first. But as I said, it's a confrontational energy because it's honest, it's brave, it's very courageous. And that, for the people who are not, that's just very, as I said, confrontational. It's a very fearless energy, Aries. There is a liveliness to this energy, a playfulness to this energy. This is a time where things are rapidly changing. There is an acceleration of energy. It's fastening up, and you know, Aries can be seen as that car, you know, that ignition to put your foot on the gas pedal and go. Full speed to wherever it is that you want to go ahead to. That's why you need to be daring. That's why this is a pioneering energy, you know, taking charge, taking the leadership over your life, over yourself, over your identity, over who you are, and to embrace that courageously, bravely, fearlessly, right? And that energy is very high in the sky. So it's not afraid of a challenge. It's not afraid to act. And a little competition goes a long way, is the Aries vibe. Now, a challenge is something I want to stay at for a moment, because I would say that even though this is an immense kind of start of something, like a whole new chapter, like so big that it's going down into the history books, I feel almost with this vibe, there's just a great startup of something, a great birth of something here. However, it will likely come through immense challenge. The reason for that is manyfold. But firstly, let's start at the obvious beginning. 29 degrees of Aries is heightened, fighting, challenging energy, okay? So 29 degrees is an anaretic degree, right? It's the end of a sign, and it's kind of smushed in between two signs, where it's wrapping up one and it's sort of energetically entering in the other one, the sign that comes after it. So it's just a little bit, it's a very heightened energy, right? I feel like definitely in Aries, it's like a volcano eruption kind of vibe. It's just a lot of energy, and that can go all the ways, right? A lot of energy can mean, yeah, volcanic eruptions or earthquakes or, I don't know, you know, what takes a lot of energy? Well, bombs, atomic bombs. I mean, I'm not here to scare you. It's not what I mean. I just mean that it's just, it just signals immense energy. And that it just can go all the ways, okay? It can go good if it's for starting something really important and fresh, that new chapter in your own life, or is this a collective new start of quite a few challenges? And it does kind of look like that, okay? It does look like a very challenging time too. So, okay, the anaretic degree, 29 degrees of Aries, to me is like war mentality. I would not be surprised if a lot of talks is like, if that is a topic that is very heightened around this time. If we talk time frame, eclipses have major effects. As I said, it's like shake-ups, wake-ups, it's chaos, disruptions, but also just, you know, reordering, reshuffling of everything. But change is imminent with an eclipse, always. So because of that heightened energy, we definitely feel it 6 weeks prior to the eclipse, and we can definitely feel it 6 weeks until 6 weeks after that eclipse. Now, eclipses always come in pairs. So there is one that starts, and then 2 weeks later we have one that, you know, sort of closes that portal, eclipse portal. So we have one starting April 20th. That's when the eclipse season starts, as we call it in astrology. This is a solar eclipse, so it starts with a new moon. So energetically, it starts with a logical chapter with, you know, fresh new beginning. And then 2 weeks later, we find ourselves between April 20th and May 5th. We find ourselves in an eclipse portal. And it tends to be a very weird vibe to be between two eclipses. So I would say, knowing everything that's going on in astrology, knowing what eclipses are all about, I would say that this year, for sure, it's going to be a very weird time between these two eclipses. And I would say I kind of definitely need to know that these eclipses will not go unnoticed, okay? We will all feel these two eclipses. Now, there is really a lot to say about this, so I'm like, where to start, where to continue, but okay. I hope you can follow me. So time-wise, we were saying that they are 6 weeks before, 6 weeks after, and that 2 week period in between the two eclipses is just crazy time. It's twilight time. You know, It's like a sci-fi movie, like weird. The vibes are weird because of so many energetic influxes and changes, okay? This is where the universe takes control more than ever. And as I said, one can call it divine timing, therefore, you know? So that's that. But every eclipse pair also has 6 months apart from the next oncoming eclipse pairs. So the next oncoming is in October, okay? So from April till October, this eclipse energy has a definite effect. Timeline-wise, I would say this eclipse has even way longer time frame issues. This is the first Aries eclipse since like approximately 19 years. Am I saying that right? No, 9 years maybe. Okay. So there's also a new start of a 9-year cycle going on here. Also, sorry, but in the summer, the nodes are changing. And the nodes change every 18 months. So, okay, this solar eclipse is the start of a hot period of 2 weeks time. Hot period, okay? Then 6 weeks, still very intense. Then actually 6 months effect, okay? Then actually an 18-month effect because of the nodal changes in the summer. So this is like signaling the start of what's going to happen, what we're going to experience for the coming 1.5 years. That's what this solar eclipse is also showing us, okay? And I would argue on top of that, that it, of course, is also a 9-year cycle due to how the nodes work, okay? But because this is the first solar eclipse, the first eclipse of when Pluto is in Aquarius, and since that takes up until at least 2043, I would argue that this solar eclipse has something to do with also a 20-year timeline. And actually, I just got a little boo, okay, light bulb moment. That makes sense because in 19 years' time from today, we have an Aries nodal change as well. So I think we just got affirmed that this is indeed a start of a 19-year cycle. Okay, that's a very long period. So whatever you do around April 20th with your goal setting and your manifestations, whatever plans whatever seeds you're planting is for a very long haul. It's a very long time that, yeah. Okay. I'm going to unpack it a little bit later, why this is related to everything else. It has everything to do with that Pluto energy. Yeah. Makes absolute sense. I'll go into that a little later. Wow. Okay, that was just a live download that you just experienced. Yeah. But so it means that this is just a very, 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 very significant eclipse. And I knew that because of the chart and because of everything involved. I didn't realize it was that long of a period. But it just shows us that we need to use this energy very well. Foremost personally, because Aries is a very personal, individual, me sign, okay? So this is about you. This is about your goals and your individual presence and somehow your identity, your path, your goals having this immense impact on our trajectory, okay? So April 20th is an energy that we need to hone in and be very wary of, be very aware of, and just use it well. Use it to the max. So, okay, but 29 degrees of Aries. As I said, that is a conflictuous number in astrology. That means struggle, fights, arguments, highly uncomfortable, challenging, yes, to the max. This is fighting for something. This is very warlike energy, okay? And so it raises a very clear question for sure that you need to ask yourself, what are you fighting for? Who are you, first of all? Because if you do not know who you are as an individual person, what it is that your personality traits are, what are you good at? And personally, I would always flip that and look at what aren't you good at, because it's actually very close together. Whatever you're very good at is usually also kind of not your downfall. That's a bit dramatic, but it's also the place where the weakness of who you are is closely related to that. So, just to give you an example, to make it more clear, maybe, like, I am a very motivated person, but that goes kind of extreme, where I tend to finish almost everything. And it has for sure occurred for my own detriment. Like, it hasn't been good for me because I'm so dedicated to what I do. It means that I also finish up things that do not serve me, aren't good for me, that I receive signs that I should stop earlier, but because of my personality trait, because I'm motivated and just want to see the finish line of everything, I continue. And that can lead to I guess emotional breakdowns, because it's too much, because I didn't listen to the signs on the way. Can you see what I mean with that example, that everybody wants to be motivated and wants to accomplish things, right? So I got that down, I suppose. But I know how that works. I know how you accomplish something. But at what cost? Okay? How important is it? What you're doing, what you're, is it worth what you're doing with your time and energy? And if it's not, I first need to learn to stop something. Okay? And for you, that might be close related as well. So whatever you're very good at might also be that thing that you need to be wary of. So, let's say maybe you're highly organized, which is like, I guess, in a working field, good, right? People like employees or maybe even leaders who are very organized. But if that goes too far, then usually it's too rigid and it's not very nice to be with a person who is only about that, you know, that kind of lacks flexibility and relaxation and stuff like that. And it can come as just as me to your own detriment, where it just, I think the crux of the story is that we need to look for balance. But you need to first find that Aries knowledge, and that is the self. Who you are, what your personality traits are, how you can describe your own identity without, you know, try to make it as authentic as you can. And then finding that polarity between Aries and Libra, because that's sort of the same spectrum of energy, but just different expressions. Finding a balance of, okay, once you know who you are and once you know the good and the bad, I suppose, the dark and the light within yourself, that's when you can balance it. Because that self-knowledge just lifts you up to a higher perspective. And it lifts your life up and your energy up, because now you just know better. And without knowing who you are and what you stand for, what you're fighting for, what you're doing, without being aware of it, you're kind of going around in circles, I feel. I don't think you're going anywhere really, you know? So we need that awareness to move on up. And we definitely need to move on up with this chart energy, okay? So you need to know the self with this lunation. You need to ask yourself what you're fighting for, but you also need to find self-prioritization and finding how you are or can be more of a leader within your own life. What are you here to lead? What do you want to invest your time and energy and your love in to complete, to go, to do? What are your goals? This is goal setting time for a very long period, as I said. Aries itself, sort of a negative expression of it, can be very impatient. It can be very restless, because once the speed goes down, that's very difficult for Aries. So if things aren't going their way, or if things aren't going fast, if there's like a waiting time or a unclarity, that's where the Aries energy goes a little crazy, you know? And it being at 29 degrees of Aries, this is likely to happen. So we can feel very impatient around this solar eclipse. We can feel very restless. We are very eager to start something, but there are challenges here. Not only because of that 29 degrees, which is a pressure energy, which is like heightened Aries, right? So it kind of also brings out the maybe negative expressions of Aries, which could also be selfishness and aggression, you know, being too blunt, not caring for others, how others feel, or how you affect others. That can also occur during this lunation. But let's look at the chart, because this is where we can truly understand the entire energy going on. Now, clearly, there is a T-square, or I should even build it more simply. This solar eclipse is squaring Pluto. And any square is an intense, challenging, frustrative energy, because it's a challenge. Pluto is a very impactful planet, and it is just at 0 degrees of Aquarius. It entered Aquarius only a month before this lunation. 0 degrees is the birth. This is the birth of Pluto in Aquarius. You know, just like Aries is that birth kind of energy. So this is the start of something new, a very different kind of energy with Pluto in Aquarius. You know, check out my Pluto in Aquarius video for more details of what that means. You know, if this lunation is squaring Pluto, and this has such a long impact, and this is related to the Pluto in Aquarius journey of 20 years, then it could potentially mean that the coming 20 years is a bit of a struggle and a challenge, and that many fights need to be resolved. Many hurdles will need to be overcome. That this is a very truly important time, and that the consequences are very high, that the impact is very big. This lunation squaring Pluto in Aquarius means that it is a challenge between me as an individual doing my thing versus the individual within a group. So it's like me versus the collective. And it's also sort of like selfishness, ego-based reality versus the greater good for humanity. And I think whenever we make a decision that is solely based for your own self-interest and for your own self-gain, for your selfish means, Pluto will course correct that. Like, it will smash it down, hopefully. But it looks like that with a square. And the crushing down of Pluto is not nice, especially in Aquarius. It would mean that it will affect many people. So one person's decision or choice has a big impact on many others. And this can go good, right? Or this can go really, really bad. It just means that, and I know this because of Pluto and Aquarius, that we are entering an age where the decision of an individual, of one person, is very impactful. It just, it's because, maybe because of this lunation, and with this lunation having such a big time span, but definitely because of Pluto in Aquarius as well, I knew the times and the energies were accelerating. It's fastening up, and it explains very much this solar eclipse. This is as I said, a very dynamic, fast, direct, quick kind of energy. And that means that maybe for the first time in a very long time, we are going to see fast results to the choices we make. So whereas before in time, you would make a decision or you would do something, and then the impact would come like years later, and you wouldn't understand, because of so much time in between, that it is related to the choice you made some time ago in the past. But because times are changing, and because it's moving faster, because it's vibrating really high and faster, it means that time is moving faster as well, in the sense that if the decision you make today has a very quick result, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, maybe in a month, and then it's easier to remember, wow, I just thought of that and now it happened. Yeah, because times are moving faster. So now you can see how you are creational, how you create your world, how you have a very big impact on not only your own life, of course you do, but also everyone around you. And maybe even, thanks to Pluto and Aquarius as well, a larger effect on many people in the world. So even though this square between Pluto and the new moon in Aries also signals a lot of fighting, war kind of energy, very aggressive talks, very aggressive actions, great challenges, okay? And that definitely has a seriousness to it, right? On the other hand, a square is an opportunity, a focus, and an attention that is demanded, and therefore we will feel that. And because of our heightened focus on it, we are able to understand it and therefore change it. So this is also the square of manifestation, where it doesn't have to be a negative expression or a lower expression, but it can also be where we flip the story and be like, I'm aware of my personal responsibility, my impact, and the effect I have on others. And I carry this with some discipline, right? With some self-knowledge and general responsibility of knowing that you affect many people. Yeah, and I guess I think it just, the consequences of any form of selfishness is going to be really harsh. And it's going to be very expensive. Like the price is going to be really high. Because Pluto is so destructive, so final, so intense, so deeply digging, you will see the effects you have very quickly. And yeah, I think it's very important to be aware of this. Now, this is intense, but it's actually a T-square. So it means it's a big red triangle, as you can see in the chart. It points to Pluto. That's the main character of this tension show. It's where our focus is going, which is the collective, it's humanity, it's freedom, it's authentic individualism. This is why this solar eclipse is probably, as the download just showed us, a time frame of 20 years. Because Pluto in Aquarius also represents long-term goals. It's very future-oriented. It's futuristic. Aquarius can also be about hopes and wishes. So here we see that the reason why this solar eclipse is so impactful is because of the time as well, right? Because it has such a long effect on our future. And this is just, again, confirmed by Pluto Aquarius energy, where the T-square is pointing at. Like, yeah, get it together, because this is a long-term future project, okay? The choices you make from 6 weeks prior to April 20th have a 20-year impact, okay? So maybe it's wise to know that, because probably you're gonna plant those seeds very wisely if you know that, right? If you know that the choices you make have an intense consequence. But I think even though it will last 20 years, this energy, actually the harvest of that seed is going to be really quick, because of the Aries energy and because of the Aquarian energy, which are both very quick energies. So this is a difficult solar eclipse. But we should thank God on our knees that it's a solar eclipse, because that relieves the energy of this story. If this was a lunar eclipse, which means a full moon situation, ooh, I would be talking very wary in this video. That would have been highly destructive. And you know, because Pluto is in this equation, it's still relevant. It still can be very destructive this coming 20 years. But this T-square is still giving us hope, where it doesn't have to be like that. And that's why the more aware you are, the more you know about yourself and what you stand for and what you fight for, what's important to you, the more you can change the storyline that occurs the coming 20 years. And it occurs today. You know, the moral of the story is that it occurs right now. And so what's involved here as well is the past, in the sense of the South Node. It's the South Node is opposite this lunation, and it's involved in that red triangle called a T-square with Pluto. So this is where we are heavily invited to release all toxicity, and that is emotional toxicity, that is physical toxicity, that is mental toxicity, subconscious patterning, subconscious programming that is running your life, you know, even if it's inherited through your DNA, or because you learned it through your parents, or because it was the culture that you were raised in, or because it was something you saw on TV, or it's because somebody told you this. There are beliefs, running your show if you're not aware. If you don't do the self-work, if you can't dive deeply into who you are, you will never know who you are. Secondly, the show will be run for you. And as I said, that price is going to be really high, because Pluto in Aquarius is like the kick in the butt to all of us, to be like, and now you're going to be who you essentially are. And if you've not dig deep, which is what Pluto requires, if you do not do the intense self-work, if you don't go to the subconscious where all the bullshit is written of, you know, how you feel, how you need to live your life, etc., then your road is blocked. Okay, so Pluto in Aquarius, as well as this T-square to Pluto in Aquarius, is saying that you need to face your fears and that you need to go really deep to find who you are as your authentic self. And for that, you need to remove a lot of stuff from your life. And that could be literal, but I didn't mean it literal. I just mean that you need to remove all that doesn't suit who you are authentically. And that you need to strip your personality naked, so to speak, and go to the essence. And that is a process that could almost feel like you're dying within your life. So it's a very intense process. But if, you know, it's just required with Pluto in Aquarius, because I feel otherwise, you might not even make it, to be really honest, okay? So, that's the tension. That's what we need to move through and towards. But there's another thing we need to move towards, and I kind of course, incorporated in my statements, but the lunation situation is close with the North Node in Taurus at 4 degrees. It's only a 5-degree orb, right? So that's why this is an eclipse. But it also means that the freshness, the star energy, the challenging energy is also quite directed at our higher purpose of living more of a Taurian life. And what is that? It's simplifying your life. It's getting down to the essentials. Like, what do you need to survive? Think about your food. Think about nature. Be sure to step into nature, be around nature, be close to it. You know, learn about it, educate yourself around this. And it's also about asking, you know, what feels good for you, what gives you pleasure, what's good for your heart. This is about the 5 senses, so it needs to feel good, it needs to smell good, it needs to taste good, it needs to look good. This is about building the life you want and building a solid foundation for a very long term. And Pluto is challenging this to make it as authentic as it can be. So this is not the traditional Taurian route where, you know, it could be about money and what you own and possess. Pluto in Aquarius is pushing our North Node to a higher expression of a long-term goal, of a futuristic new approach to the Taurian life. So this is not your usual way of doing things. Pluto in Aquarius here, as I said, is a major player in this solar eclipse. You know, this T-square to Pluto of the nodes, squaring to Pluto, is going on through many lunations. In my perspective, this T-square to Pluto from the nodes lasts till the lunation on November 27th. So that's 6 months away from today. So we will strongly feel the Pluto impact for the coming 6 months, very strongly. And it's just upgrading where we need to move towards. However, it's doing that through challenges and massive transformation and digging really deeply into the unseen, and digs it all up so we can see it, so we need to face it. This solar eclipse is actually also sort of conjunct Jupiter, who is in Aries as well, at 23 degrees, which is a 6-degree orb from this lunation. That makes it quite relevant as well. Jupiter is a planet of expansion, so it makes everything bigger that it touches, good or bad. It just makes it bigger. In Aries, it makes all that warrior fighting energy bigger. This is also a big leadership energy, by the way. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens to a leader around this time. Jupiter in Aries is not only conjunct to this new moon, it's also conjunct to the asteroid Eris. Well, actually, I think Eris is a dwarf planet, but Eris is sort of the female version of Pluto. She's the goddess of discord, so she represents intense chaos, disruption, and it enhances the fighting mentality. And Aries is exactly the sort of Aries energy that it is fearless, it is bold, it is courageous, and therefore not afraid to, you know, disrupt and just change a lot of things. And it's that female version of, I suppose, fighting, whatever that means to you, where Aries is more of the male kind of way of fighting for things. So that being involved in this very intense solar eclipse means there's a lot of fighting energy here, okay? There is a lot of disruptional energy here. There is big changes coming. Big energetic shifts. And I think what this energy is definitely helping us understand is that it is indeed very important to be fearless, to be courageous, to be very bold. It's time to take noticeable action, you know? This is not the little steps. This is big, forward moving steps, and they're not easy. They are not easy steps, but this is where you need to have faith in yourself and to take the leadership. And really, really embrace the fearlessness within yourself. And if you have fears, the South Node says, release them, because they are only obstacles right now. The question is very high, what you're fighting for. That question needs to be answered by yourself. What is valuable, important, worthwhile for you, and do not go off that track. Stay on that path. And the road is rocky. So you know. Do not make deals. Stay on your path. Knowing who you are and knowing what you're fighting for. Just looks like a lot of struggles around this time. Potentially a 6-month window as well. And as I said, ultimately a longer time as well. But it is wise to also keep a focus for a more close time frame. So, as I said, the effects will be pretty immediate and quick and easy to follow, so to speak. Like, yeah, it has a 20-year frame, but you'll notice it quickly. And it just means that we are entering a very turbulent time the coming 6 months. I felt that very strongly when I saw the astrological movements for 2023. So I'm not surprised here. We could be met with some shocks because eclipses can do that. Shocks, changes, immediate, sudden upheaval. Quite some challenges. Okay. Let's look at the ruler, which is Mars. Mars rules Aries. Mars is in the sign of Cancer at 13 degrees. It doesn't like to be there because it's just very emotional. It's very heart-centered. It's very about nurturing and taking care of people. Therefore, you always have to consider others. And Mars is usually that Aryan energy. It's like, I want it and I'm going to get it. So it's a very focused, just a very centered one way of looking at things. And it can just shun out all other people and what other people think or what other people need. It's a very self-oriented sort of energy. But Mars in Cancer is not. And that's why I guess Mars can have some difficulty. However, it's never a coincidence. Astrology is no coincidence. So the fact that Mars is here in classical astrology being debilitated, it's not. It's very meaningful that it's here. It means that whatever we take action upon, which is this solar eclipse, right? This is an action-oriented eclipse. This is goal setting and moving forward. The ruler of this lunation is saying, I want you to do that with keeping in the background the people you care the most for, whatever you consider to be your family, your loved ones, and whatever action you're taking or goal setting you're making, be sure to consider them, think about them, and incorporate them within that. And more strongly, Mars in Cancer is saying, follow your gut feeling, follow your intuition. This is about security. This is about feeling good and feeling at home, feeling safe. And that is just really important around this time. So your home is your anchor, and of course that is truly within yourself and within your heart. So you need to heighten that. You need to connect to your heart, to your gut feeling. Trust your intuition. Trust your safety. Wanting to be safe is a fine thing, okay? Yeah, and be sure to love, you know? This is, you know, nothing is worthwhile without love. So, that should be your highest goal on whatever you're doing. Though Mars, the ruler, is squaring Chiron, which means that we can feel a lot of wounds around the self. Mars in Cancer is actually also about the past, our roots, our, you know, family, but this could also be, you know, this is going back at least 7 generations. Mars is actually conjunct the fixed star Sirius, so I think that's very meaningful. Ancient history shows a great connection to Sirius. You know, all major megalithic historical sites on this world are built to be directed to the fixed sign of Sirius. You know, you can see many documentaries on the buildings in very ancient buildings in Malta, in, you know, Göbekli Tepe, and some parts of the pyramids, and I think even, you know, the temples and pyramids in Latin America, and so on. They are almost all designed to face the fixed star Sirius, who is not as fixed as we think, actually, because it moves 1 degree every 70 years. So in ancient times it wasn't where it is now, but because it only moves 1 degree every 70 years, for a human life it looks very fixed. It's like, for our human life, it's in the same sign, in the same degree almost. This is significant because I think this is bringing up a lot of unconscious stuff, because actually Cancer is also about that. It's the unconscious wounding, usually childhood wounds, but it could also be inherited, as I said, back to at least 7 generations. So this is also DNA imprinting. You know, this is heritage in all forms, ways, biological, cultural, whatever. So I think this also just brings a lot up around the woundings related to our past, related to the Sirius connection, and it's very unconscious. This is not something we are aware of. Not many people understand this. It will require a lot of first, you know, self-work, working on yourself, undoing a lot of programming, coming closer to the authentic you, which is required for the South Node in Scorpio and Pluto in Aquarius, and of course working towards our North Node. But it's also required to understand this heritage issue of going back in ancient times where, you know, not a lot is recorded. Like, it's hard to find evidence. So when you go down that path, you need to have a very strong intuition to feel into your own unconsciousness or subconsciousness and follow the truth marker of your intuition to feel what could be true about, what is said about the ancient times, or what is not said, more importantly, probably about the ancient times. So there is a connection here with that as well. There's a strong, serious connection with the ruler of this solar eclipse. Now, there are also serious cults who use that energy, so could also go that way. I don't know. But there is some wounding around it because it squares Chiron. So this can also be triggers around self-identity, self-worth, and even our body and appearance or something like that. So don't be surprised if some of those triggers come up, but it's all in favor of understanding who you are. Flip it and use it for your own empowerment, okay? Emotions are energy in motion. They are information. It's an energetic message telling you something. So when a trigger comes up, if you're able to be as aware as you can, try to flip the story instead of it, oh, this is hurting me. Flip it and look at, what is this telling me? What is this showing me? Even if it is like saying to you, triggering to you that you're not valuable or something, it tells you that once upon a time you were hurt and something made you feel less valuable. But you are always valuable, so it's an invalid belief. But you can look at how that made you feel and accept that in that time, in that moment, it was the best you could do for probably survival purposes, and that you are very valuable, and that you keep affirming that to yourself, even if you don't feel it right away. It's just one of the ways to heal. There are many, many ways to do that. It's just a simple way, I suppose. But in my own experience, I understood that acceptance is really a major key in healing. So it's not about saying that you're not valuable or that you're it's not about accepting that, right? It's about accepting the validity of your feelings. So that's how you felt back then. So that is what you were made to feel. That's how somebody made you feel. And it doesn't mean that you're pointing the finger at them and saying, because of you, I feel invaluable. Like, that doesn't get you anywhere. It's usually how a healing process starts, though, to be really honest. But eventually what really helps is to really feel that just a sort of like a neutral way of looking at it, even though the emotions aren't neutral, right? They're very intense and they bring up just reactions. But acceptance is more like a neutral way of looking at something and being like, yeah, you know what? That really did hurt. And it was because I did this and that, and you don't even have to go there, but being like, yeah, that person was really mean to me. Like, okay, I see that. I accept the feeling it gave me, because it's the feeling you've been living with for a very long time, probably. So just staying with that, being like, that was a valid feeling, because that's a consequence of whatever happened, right? It doesn't make the person who made you feel that person per se bad. This is about you. So here we go back into the Aries energy, and this is about you, right? This is not about pointing fingers at other people. This is, you're in charge of your life. This is your life. Nobody else can live your life. There's only one of you, right? It's you. And you know, it was you who moved through the birth canal, and it's you who's going to die at the end of the game alone. And I mean, it could be a very depressing way of looking at things, but again, this is acceptance. Like, this is how it happens, right? You're birth alone. Even if you're a twin, you still have to go through the birth canal alone. And even if it's a cesarean, I can already hear people asking that. Even if it's cesarean, it's one by one, right? No doctor can hold two babies at the same time. So, okay, you come to this world alone. You go out of this world alone. Even if it's a mass murder or whatever, it's you personally who leaves. So this is a personal journey, whatever way you want to look at it. This is about you, your leadership, your identity. So if you do not know who you are in your essence, if you do not know yourself in all colors, and in all the grays and in all the dark as well as the light, then I think you still have a very long journey to go. But if you're in that journey, you're on the right path. And just, I think it also empowers, because if it's just you, then there's a lot you could change. But I don't mean that you're always responsible for everything. It's not that I mean that, and it's not that I am a Pollyanna who thinks that you can make everything from your life. It's not that either. But it just begins, the empowerment begins with understanding that you are at the center of it all. You are at the center of your own life. And the center is your soul. It's not even the personality you have in this life. It's much deeper than that. And that's why the sun symbol is a circle with a core in the middle. And that's you. That's your soul self. You need to be centered within yourself. You need to understand who you are, because that's where you will understand what kind of gifts you have to share with this world, and what the things are that you want to learn, evolve, and grow into. And astrology can help with a lot of those things if you're still searching. So the ruler Mars is also sextiling something really interesting, and that's the last thing I want to say about this solar eclipse. It's sextiling Mercury at 15 degrees of Taurus and Uranus at 17 degrees of Taurus, which means Mercury and Uranus are together here. This is very meaningful because Mercury and Uranus together, Mercury is the lower mind, earthly mind, I should say, and Uranus is the higher mind. So here we have the genius, the genius scientific kind of vibe. So this is the inventors, this is the scientific people, this is just out of this world knowledge, higher intelligence. This is downloads and just ahead of its time kind of knowledge. So them together means our minds are like there's a lot going on within our minds. A lot is being upgraded. Sudden changes to our ideas, to our thoughts, to even the way we communicate can be really like erratic, strange, but very out there, like very unique way of thinking around this new moon. I think that's needed, right? With Pluto in Aquarius and with so much intensity, we need like outer world kind of help to think outside of the box, because that's this kind of energy. It's thinking outside of the box. And in the sign of Taurus, where our North Node is at, so this is where we're moving towards, we need to innovate the whole idea of living in nature and having strong long-term goals around that. We will be thinking a lot about Earth and nature and the ways we need to be with it, change it, evolve it, innovate it, and you know, the ruler of this lunation is working with that. So this is a solid building kind of energy. It's water and earth, so it's a very stable ground to build upon. And Taurus and Cancer are both about safety and security. So there is that. I think we're building something really strong here, or at least that's what the ruler of this lunation wants us to do. But with Uranus there, it's going to be different. It's going to be on your own terms, very, very uniquely. You're going to do it your way. And maybe you're going to rebel about it all. Maybe this is a revolution. Maybe this is fighting for nature. Maybe this is fighting for safety. But this has a more positive outcome because it's a sextile. So this is where you're winning. You know what I mean? So, but the reason why I also point this out is because Mercury is, you know, the planet of our mind, of our communication, of information. Very important. So it also means actually when it's with Uranus here, I would say there's also a lot of information coming in, and could also be very wild information, like, what is that about? Like, could it be? And very surprising, out of the blue, out of this world kind of information. And knowledge is going to be really important around this time. Like, knowledge is going to be the key to unlock it and to win, okay? Again, back to what I was trying to say. Mercury is going to go retrograde, like, within 24 hours, I would say, after this lunation. This is quite significant. It means the energy is slowed down here. Even though this is about planting seeds and starting in a very fast acceleration of energy, dynamic, our mind is not so. Our mind is much slower. Our mind is very reflective and is like, I want to learn more about this. Like, it's about going back to the books, doing your research, and coming back with better ideas. So that's pretty meaningful too. We're gonna have a lot of ideas and downloads around this time, and they're actually going to be very beneficial because of that sextile to Mars. So I would say your ideas and thoughts and information you pick up on is quite, you know, it's on spot, like it's the real deal. If it's confirmed by your intuition, that's the truth, okay? And you need to incorporate that within the goal setting and within the action taking. So Mercury going retrograde is like, let's kick it back in a gear and let's look at, let's think it through, which is not a very Aryan thing. Think it through, think about it again, reevaluating your thoughts, and then take action. So even, yeah, within eclipse time, it's never about you necessarily taking action, because I would even not recommend that, because this is divine timing. This is where we surrender and trust and let go, and we face whatever needs to be faced. We go with the motion, right? We do not control, we do not block, we do not resist. We go with the motion. We go along, at least definitely during the eclipse window, which is between April 20th and May 5th. I would say we do not make choices. We do not control the situation. We row with the boat. Like, we just stay on course, and all we try to do is not fall off and just collect as much as information as you can, feel into the situation, and if you have to make decisions, you do it based upon what is presented to you, and I don't mean from the outside, but I mean like what kind of information you got and how you feel with that. But you know, if you can, I would just sail these waves and wait till Mercury goes direct, and even add good 10 to 14 days to when Mercury goes direct, to be sure that the decisions you make are solid and long-term, and do not need to be revised. The problem is that when you do things in Mercury retrograde, the chances are you have to redo something, or you have to come back to it, or it's of a short-term period. It doesn't have to be. If you have natal Mercury retrograde, the story is different. For you, it's actually sort of a positive thing, this retrograde. But generally, Mercury retrograde is not a great time to sign contracts or agreements, read the fine print. You could overlook information easily. This is where you could make typos, you know, send an email that you didn't want to send, write something wrong. This is not the best time to purchase technological devices, anything electronic. Not the best time to purchase those. I would say don't if you can. This is a time where these technological devices and electronics could have difficulties, so there could be disruptions with that. I think, you know, a lot of people are predicting that there could be like an electronic fallout and like, you know, cut off of electronics for a while. This could be that, I would say. This could be an indication of that. And just be really cautious. Be very cautious around this time. And I would say don't be surprised if there is a lot of war rhetoric going on. 29 degrees of Aries is, I think, a NATO placement, a strong NATO placement. So yeah, it can go that way. But I would say just don't be fooled. Don't be triggered by that. Don't move your energy towards that. Distance yourself as far from it as you can, and use this time to stand strongly within yourself. And as I said, to plant those seeds extremely well. And don't take the bait of the fear. Be fearless. Happy solar eclipse in Aries, and I will see you in the next lunation situation, which is another eclipse, right? It's a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. See you soon. Take care.